We live in a non branded search world, but what does that mean exactly for key sports and active nutrition categories? So it's pretty plain and simple. The rise in non branded search has disrupted business. So, what's going on? In my opinion, I think there's a combination of things that are kind of going on. The first is that low barriers of entry is causing a proliferation of brands and products. The strength in marketplaces like Amazon and them needing that added selection to feed their flywheel, and consumers realizing that product quality exists everywhere and they have a willingness to try them out. So, meet the brand agnostic consumer. Yes, there's definitely still some occasions when brand is the first purchase criteria that consumers take into account, but it would be extremely exhausting for consumers today to really be passionate about every single product category. So, if there are some of those product categories that they are passionate in, they tend to probably do a lot more research. They tend to kind of match up their purchase criteria in terms of the importance level with a brand and really kind of align themselves with that brand. But in a lot of the other categories that maybe they're not that interested in, they tend to lean towards maybe a subconscious, like autopilot purchase. They're going to be using a non branded search term and they're really going to be searching out quality based around some other product attributes as the definer of quality. So here's just kind of some basic characteristics of the brand agnostic consumer. Firstly, they're less interested in famous brands and labels. The focus is more on quality and the product attributes that are definers of quality. They're in a constant search for value and inspiration through consumption and looking for the best possible prices with the availability of the product. So, just kind of thinking about that in a convenience sense. And that last point has been really important, especially in the last 18 or so months with the COVID-19 effect, as supply chains have really kind of pinched and now has been kind of strangled. Consumers have not been able to get the products they normally would buy. And that created an environment where they had to try new products, try new brands. And you're seeing that with a ton of the data that's been out there. 73% of consumers did try a new brand in the last year. You also have a lot of the shopping activity that went to a marketplace like Amazon, and some of the same kind of data kind of coming up and aligning well, saying that 75% of Amazon shoppers were open to occasionally or frequently trying new brands and new products. And this shakes brand loyalty to its core, but also opens up a bigger strategic opportunity for brands. Consumers now are searching for categories, and that could have some descriptor or not attached to it, rather than brands. 4 out of 5 searches on Amazon are actually non branded. That means that consumers are looking for a female pre workout or chocolate protein powder instead of Alani Nu or Optimum Nutrition. While not all retailers are at the same level of discoverability, 52% of Amazon shoppers said that they're more willing to try a brand that they have not heard of on Amazon compared to any other retailer that they shop at. Paired with the fact that Amazon has become the first product search, it's the default first product search when you're looking for anything that isn't just a general information query, it really increases the importance of this consumer behavior that's happening. Amazon is really a demand generation platform where shoppers are using the search bar as a discovery tool for new brands and products. Consumers might not have had the intention to buy a specific brand or product going into that shopping occasion with Amazon, but they did have an intent to buy, and using the search bar for discovery reasons and feeling comfortable with purchasing a product that they're not familiar with or a brand they're not familiar with because of some of the social proof elements and things that are on an Amazon marketplace. There is a lot of interesting things that are happening because of all those variables working together. Now, regardless if a consumer sees your brand because they're searching specifically for it or maybe stumbles on it because of a non-branded search, The key is to make your sports and active nutrition CPG brand visible and easily found. Now, I'm far from an SEO expert, but my kind of understanding of the branded versus non branded kind of discussion is that branded terms, while the quantity is much lower, the quality is usually a lot higher, and you usually have a higher conversion rate because people tend to already be a lot further down in the purchase funnel for your brand. They are not necessarily looking at other brands for that specific category. Now, on the non branded side, you have a lot more quantity, but the quality is a little bit less. The consumer is a lot higher up in the purchase funnel, but it does give you the chance to show your brand to those consumers and potentially move them into a new customer and then eventually into a loyal customer. Since the bulk of the search queries are non branded, sports and active nutrition brands should be redefining and strengthening their product differentiators. This might seem like overly simplistic advice, but clearly defining your product differentiators to your core audience is the first and most important step. This is where product content and product listing optimization becomes very important because, in my experience, the active and sports nutrition category as a whole gets extremely kind of sciencey in the way they describe things. They are not necessarily speaking to their target audience. They're not being able to really define their unique selling propositions in a concise way. And that might be through copywriting strategies, not utilizing visuals, media-rich visuals like video and photography, because you're really trying to define those product differentiators to the level that are easy to understand so they can create commercial value across the competitive landscape. And if you do need any help on this, I would suggest reaching out to my client and preferred partner in this area, OneSpace. I'll leave the link down in the description because the fact is most of the active nutrition, sports nutrition customers are shopping for at least some of the category on Amazon. Amazon is basically a default utility in America today. So overlooking that consumer behavior towards the shift of non-branded search terms because of most consumers leaning towards being brand agnostic would be a massive mistake regardless of how strong you think your brand is in the market. Understand that Amazon is only scratching the surface for its potential influence on the retail industry. So these behaviors strengthen, not weaken over time. Knowing that this could create more opportunities for upstart brands to steal market share, I do want to look at 4 of the key sports and active nutrition categories based around some search behavior to see which ones maybe potentially have the most opportunity to be disrupted in the future because of some of these things that are happening around the brand agnostic consumer. And before I get into that, I do want to thank my data partner Stackline for these visuals. If you are interested in any of their services and tools that Stackline provides to CPG brands, I'll also leave that link down in the contents description. So the first active and sports nutrition category that I want to look at is energy drinks. And energy drinks have been an extremely popular category on Google and Amazon search engine. It actually ranks them second in the grocery category and top 15 in all consumer categories. There was a huge, almost 60% year over year increase of aggregated search volume. Now, if we look at the branded versus non-branded search volume, you actually see that about 25 to 26% of energy drink searches are non-branded. That's actually extremely low, as you'll see compared to the rest of the examples that I'm going to have in this piece of content. I assume this has to do with the fact energy drink companies tend to spend heavily on building brand equity lifestyle elements that connect with customers. They don't tend to spend too much time on product attributes or features, as most consumers are looking for a sensory effect to get more energy that's based around an impulse purchase. Now, drilling down into which brands are getting the most search volume, it honestly almost follows the Amazon sales rankings exactly, with Monster being the largest, then Red Bull, and then Celsius. VPX or Bang Energy is the only brand that lost material year over year search volume, which might align with a drop off of overall consumer hype after the PepsiCo distribution deal. Now, jumping over to the more sports nutrition side of energy drinks known as pre workouts, those searches have also seen a similar uptick in year to year growth. This is likely tied to the fact that the COVID-19 effect and restrictions on gyms in 2020 lightened up in 2021. So more people are utilizing that product around that usage occasion. The major difference between these similar categories is that non branded search spikes to 78% of the category for pre workouts. This likely doesn't surprise a lot of industry professionals, as the marketing around pre workouts have likely been bigger, faster, stronger features. This creates a consumer behavior that seeks product differentiation through substitution, trialing, and discoverability instead of brand loyalty. Drilling down into which brands are getting the most search volume, the market leader Cellucor is leading branded search, but they're losing ground fast to upstarts like Redcon One, Alani Nu, and Ghost Lifestyle. An important note on Ghost Lifestyle is that they are not officially offered on Amazon outside of their gamer SKUs, so that search volume would likely be higher. Now, moving into the protein side of sports nutrition and active nutrition, protein bars is a category that has a ton of popularity in search volume and a larger total addressable market overall than pre workouts, but not as big as energy drinks. The year over year growth story is moderate, and that's likely tied to the higher household penetration in the protein bars category. The branded versus non branded search conversation is about even at 56% of it being non branded. My hypothesis is that the protein bar category usually goes through 5 to 7 year cycles driven by a strong brand that rides a specific product form and value proposition. You then get fast followers that build the product attribute value, and it creates more non branded search volume. You can see that Quest Nutrition is the top searched protein brand. The brands that fast followed Quest Nutrition would be essentially One Bars and Think. The other two top 5 protein bar names are playing in the low price realm, which is Pure Protein, which is owned by private equity firm KKR, or they're a different format like the wafers in Power Crunch. And then the final sports and active nutrition category that I want to look at is protein powders. Now, this category is more popular in search volume and a larger total addressable market overall than all of the categories discussed earlier, except for energy drinks. The year over year growth story is moderate, and that's again likely tied to the higher household penetration in the category and the category's maturity. The branded versus non branded search conversation on protein powders is higher than bars at 73% coming from non branded search. Most consumers starting out in the active and sports nutrition category buy protein powders first. The logic is usually to grab a high quality protein powder that fits your dietary needs. So things like animal versus plant or low lactose or maybe even price considerations. And these purchase criteria are usually less about brand and more about those product attributes. Now, that being said, I did find it interesting that the market leader in protein powders, Optimum Nutrition, is not even in the top 7 branded searches. The branded search leader is about 5%. So it's extremely fragmented. Regardless, I found that tidbit was important to bring up. And I just want to end on some final thoughts. As you guys can see with the stackline data that I did share, those big active and sports nutrition categories are a little bit different in terms of how they are affected by the brand agnostic consumer, the rise of marketplaces, just the proliferation of brand and products. But when we talk about branded versus non-branded, it's really not an either or proposition. Both of them are extremely important. So it's critical for active and sports nutrition brands can understand what's happening with consumer behaviors now and align that with what categories you are competing in so you can ensure that you're able to fend off new competition and win new customers. Hope you guys enjoyed this piece of content. If you guys have any questions around the kind of search behavior that's happening in the active and sports nutrition category, please comment on this content or reach out to me on any of my social media accounts.